Buckle your seatbelts because today we are going to take you around Latin America in just a few minutes to let you know what the Passion Life teams have been out there doing. They have been so busy. It is so exciting. We can't wait to tell you about it. Welcome to this episode of the Passion Life podcast. We're glad that you guys are joining us. I am just home from my daughter's wedding in the UK, and I'm happy to be back. It was a beautiful time, a blessed time. A few weeks ago, John and I did a recording together on the idea that marriage saves lives. And there was a lot, we were talking about that specifically because my daughter was getting married and we were in the lead up to that. And it got a lot of positive response and a lot of engagement from people. So we thought that we would follow up on that now that I'm back from this wedding. But before we do that, we're going to take maybe 1 or 2 weeks before we make that recording and stop now to take advantage of the fact that we have a group of people that have just come back from the field with Passion Life. We had 3 Passion Life representatives who have been so busy in the last couple of weeks and 2 months that we just had to stop and tell you guys what's going on. The reason we do this is because I know that the average Passion Life supporter, follower, anyone who's interested in the work that the Lord is doing in Passion Life probably walks around with not a firm idea of what goes on from day to day within Passion Life. How often are these guys going out on trips? How many people are being influenced by the team? What do we have as far as expectations going forward? So I thought we'd just kind of make it a little bit clear how busy just one section of our team has been over the last several weeks. So I have with me today Jeanne Pernia. Jeanne is our director of everything that happens in Latin America. Jeanne, it's great to be with you. I'm glad that you could join me today. I know that you've been back in the country just like 12 or 15 hours. You've just gotten back into the
About 8
United States. Is
hours.
that right? Yeah. Yeah.
That is
Yeah. So
correct,
you
Mark.
came back late you have been so busy. And I think that that's why I just wanted to kind of stop here for a moment and take advantage of this particular week because you're home and you're not out on the field and we can make a recording here in the United States before we lose you again. I don't know where you're going next, but it's been a bit of a whirlwind. You don't sit around and gather dust. You're not all that lazy, are you, Jeanne?
Oh my, absolutely not, Mark. This has been a very busy season in the touring that we've been doing in Latin America. And, we always want to take advantage when we're invited because you know that we put it out there, but it's the Lord that opens the doors. So when He does, we move swiftly and quickly out there so we can go and share the gospel.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. And we are now working, I think, as an organization, now that we're about 12 years into the existence of the organization of Passion Life, I think we're working fairly consistently in 40, 41, maybe 42 countries around the world. This map that you're looking at now kind of gives you an idea of some of the places where we've been going over the last 12 years. But specifically, we've been so active in these countries that are circled here in Latin America, actually a few more than these, but these 3 countries we've been putting a lot of emphasis on, a lot of given a lot of attention to in the last several weeks. So Jeanne, this all started, this last flurry of activity for you guys started just 6 or 7 weeks ago when you left for Guatemala. Is that right?
That's correct, Mark. We did the first tour to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Paraguay. Those were the very
Okay.
first 3 within, I think, 7 days. We were able to knock that out.
That's right. And that was with several
And
of Passion Life's staff, including John Inser, went on the Paraguay and El Salvador parts of that trip.
yes,
I'm not Paraguay, Guatemala and El
well,
Salvador. Is
he
that
he
correct?
went to, yeah, Guatemala. Yes, yeah, that was
Okay, right.
very exciting, Mark, because that Guatemala, we had been there back in 2019, and we were
Right.
invited back in 2020, the same week that the whole COVID epidemic closed us down. So we had a standing invitation,
Yeah, I
which
was
we
supposed to go with you on that
accepted.
trip. We were
Uh,
packed and ready. I mean, I think
yeah,
we were going to leave on like Wednesday, and on Monday they quit flying everywhere internationally for COVID.
yeah, they had scheduled something like 500 pastors back then, but to God's glory, this trip actually brought in 800, the biggest crowd we've ever had. Not that we really seek the bigger crowd,
Right.
but the person, the pastor that invited us is very, very well known there in a
Yes.
very pro-life country, which is Guatemala. So we
Yeah.
had quite a bit of people there.
He is a well-known pastor and well-respected, and has, if I'm correct, he has radio and TV programs, and so a lot of people
He
throughout
does.
Guatemala would recognize him. He has a lot of influence with upper level leadership in the pastoral circles.
Yeah, his name is Fernando Solares, Dr.
Yes.
Fernando Solares, very well
Yep.
known throughout Latin
Yep.
America. Yes, Mark.
Well, yeah, we were going to go in 2019, 500 pastors, canceled at the last minute. A little bit of a disappointment because we were so ready to go on that trip. But it seems like the Lord pulled it out again. He always does, and this time it was not 500 pastors; it was 800 pastors who were able to attend that.
It
So
was.
John was with you, if I'm correct. Anderson was at that one. Is that correct?
Anderson and
Okay,
Nadu. So
and
we
they do.
had the core group there. Yes.
So
Yes.
stop for a moment and tell our listeners who Anderson and Nadu are, just so that they, maybe they know, but there are a lot of people watching this who the staff
Sure.
that we have in the field is kind of fuzzy
Uh,
to them.
yeah, both of them are from Colombia. As you know, John kind of kicked everything off in Latin America, first in Cuba, but then in Colombia, it was out of the seminary in Medellin. And so one of his students was Anderson Ocampo, who decided that, yes, this was his calling. And he has really come underneath the leadership of both you, Mark, and John, and he has shown himself to be just a great uh, teacher in teaching the four questions and leading the pastor role in teaching the four questions throughout
He
Latin
has.
America. So
He's done a great job. Let
yeah,
me briefly interrupt you there. Let
yeah,
me briefly interrupt you there, Jeanne, because I want to explain a little bit more about our these people that we've brought on staff with Passion Life to the people who are watching this video
yes,
today. Anderson is a young guy. We met him literally while he was still in seminary, wanted to be a pastor. He is an incredible teacher. Since then, he has gone on to be a writer, a respected speaker. Um, he is really helping our organization think through critical next steps for Latin America. He has proven to be just an incredible asset to our team. And even though he lives in Colombia and works from Colombia, he travels with you and the rest of the Latin America team, and with me and with John. We meet up in different places throughout Latin America and teach together. If there is anything about Anderson that's not perfect, it's that he's young. And there's nothing wrong with being young. But in Passion Life, most of the time we are teaching pastors. And so this is an area where I will solicit prayer from our watchers. Anderson is well received. As soon as he starts speaking, people realize he is theologically astute. He's engaging and captivating as a speaker. But when you're young and you walk into a room of 200 pastors who have been pastoring for 15 or 20 or 30 or 50 years, sometimes it's hard to get the respect of those guys if you're a young person. So if there's anything that you can pray for Anderson, it's just that he would run with boldness and that people would see that even though he is young,
amen,
he is carrying the fire for Passion Life. Pray for Anderson. And who else was on
amen.
on that
Yeah.
trip, Jeannie?
Actually, I'm sorry. Yes, pardon me, but that was one of the reasons why we made sure that he was with us this week at the Alliance, the Evangelical Alliance pastors throughout all of Latin America, because I wanted to make sure that his face was connected to Passion Life. That Nadu is a part of that organization. We're a part of that organization, but
Yes.
for me, it was just very important that they would see him, and they did, and they did. They really brought him in, and I think he finally felt a little bit more secure amongst the elders, pastors there that were at the association meeting.
Well, the Bible says, "Don't let anybody look down on you because of your youth," But Anderson, I don't sense that he holds back or that he's intimidated too much by teaching these pastors, because his
Not at all.
his ministry is to train leaders, and he has embraced it, and he does a fantastic job at it. So, yeah, you mentioned that we are a part of these evangelical alliances and these congresses of pastors and leaders, and that all really is because
Yes.
of Nadu. Can you explain to people who Nadu is?
Yes. Yes, Nedu Via Marin is part of a larger organization that has to do with these different associations, Iberoamericano, which work with also the Hispanic community of pastors throughout Latin America, and Sedecol, which is the organization within Colombia, recognized in the women's ministries. And because she has been a part of that, she has invited us to be a part of these associations that are really the core of entities that invite us to come to their churches throughout their countries. So
Yeah.
we really have relied on Nadu, and she is just a well versed, also a doctor in theology, very commissioned in the pro life work, and very
Yeah.
recognized throughout the pro life community there in South America and Central America.
If I were to
She's our
categorize
door opener.
Nadu, I would call her the key. She is the key that opens all the locks for us. Nadu has relationships with
Yes.
people throughout Latin America, and she is like a skeleton key that goes in every lock to every organization and every network of pastors and leaders.
Amen.
And she lives in Bogota. She speaks Spanish. She understands English, but she doesn't speak it very much. Anderson is very bilingual. Jeannie, you as the director of Latin American operations for Passion Life, you live in Orlando, but you're perfectly bilingual
Yes.
because you grew up with a Puerto Rican mother, and so you have a Cuban husband, and you're quite the international,
Yes.
as we like to say. So your team
God
is
has
just
been
firing on
good.
all cylinders. Let me explain, Jeannie, to people
They are.
that although we work all over the world, and the Lord has given us inroads in Asia and in Africa and in Europe and in various places, we've actually really had to stop and staff up and dedicate a team of people specifically to Latin America, because there was so much good, overwhelming, encouraging, enthusiastic response coming from many of the churches in Latin America. And you have moved into the role of leading that whole team of staff that are with us from Latin America. So it includes Anderson in Medellin. It includes Nadu in Bogota. It includes Pastor Sandy in Cuba, Dr. Anya, who is a medical leader in Eastern Cuba. There are other people in Colombia as well. We have Harold, we have Pilar. These are people who are dedicated team members to traveling and teaching and reproducing all the work that we do. Jeannie, this is
Yes.
I think it's worth going back and just rehearsing for people. I'm putting you on the spot here. Can you explain to people what the four questions of the four questions training are? Can you explain what the four questions are?
Yes. We go and we teach, what does the Bible say about the sanctity of human life, including the baby in the womb.
Yep.
Our second question has to do with, oh goodness, I always
You're going to
blank out on
remember. I
that one,
know I'm
Mark.
putting you on the spot. You've heard it
Um,
a million times.
I
What
don't
does the
have,
Bible
yeah.
say about
What does the word,
shedding
what,
the
the
shedding of
shedding the innocent, yeah, shedding blood
shedding of
of
innocent blood?
innocent blood, include, including abortion.
That's right.
And with
The third one
and
is
then the third one
bringing,
is the one that I often the one
you
that I
often
do
help out
share
with
with
and
my
illustrate for
testimony,
us.
which is, yes, how does the I'm sorry, Mark.
That's all right. No. I
Goodness.
put you on the spot, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not
Does
going to do
the
it. I've just gotten you. I've
no
just
that's
gotten you on the spot here. The third one,
oh, I'm
Jeannie,
sorry.
and you
Um
know this, is how
yes.
to bring. How do we bring the grace of the gospel to the guilt and the shame of abortion? Because people need to experience not only forgiveness from their
Yes.
past uh, uh, affiliation with abortion, or they need forgiveness from their unwillingness to stand up and say anything or do anything. All of us have
Amen.
that need, including not just
Yes.
forgiveness, but freedom to get back on the saddle and start serving the living God.
Amen.
And then the fourth question again is
Absolutely
um,
is.
how do we respond? What does the Bible say that we should do to stop the shedding of innocent blood? What are some practical ways of doing it? What are some biblical
Amen.
theological ways? And then we introduce models to these people of pregnancy help and intervention from around the world. So often we say that we have two halves of an apple. One is the teaching half and the
Yes.
theological half. That inspires the second half, which is how do we respond and get dirt under our fingernails and start saving women and babies and families by setting up practical help
Mm.
ministries to keep these people served and keep them from making choices that they cannot live with or can't find peace with. So that's what we do. Now, Jeannie,
Amen.
we're going to take a quick break. We always take a quick break in the middle of these recordings. When we come back, we're going to talk specifically about this busy schedule that you guys have had over the past 5 to 7 weeks.
The U.S. accounts for only 3% of the abortions that happen in our world each year, leaving 97% of the crisis before us as a world missions challenge. Would you join us in serving where the need is greatest? PassionLife, rescuing the most vulnerable where abortion is most concentrated.
As I travel all over the world, people commonly ask me what they can say and do to help a mother who's in a pregnancy-related crisis. And I always say to them, be ready to speak up and show them the simplest of things. Show them what their baby looks like. We call this the PassionLife Tiny Baby. It's what you look like at 9 weeks of age, and it's available. You can find more information about it on our website.
If you're just joining us, I am here today with Jeanne Pernia, who is our director of all Latin American operations for PassionLife. And Jeanne, you guys sure have had an incredibly busy season over the last several weeks. If I count correctly, you have had your passport stamped at a port of entry at least 7 times just over the last couple of weeks. So can you just
That is
list for us?
absolutely correct.
Don't tell us what you were doing yet. We're going to talk about that. But can you just list for us the countries that you've been in the last several weeks, starting with Guatemala?
Yeah, we started off, Guatemala, and then we went to El Salvador, and then we went on to Paraguay. Then from Paraguay, I had a meeting in Medellin, Colombia, left and went to Chile, and then to Cuba. And then from Cuba, I went just this past week to Cartagena.
Cartagena, which is
So,
also in
yes, I
Colombia.
have been off. That's correct.
So, and between some of those trips, you were not going necessarily from country to country. Sometimes you were going home to be with your husband for like a day or 2 or 3 at the most, and then you were back out the door again.
That's correct, Mark.
I'm glad that
He was
guys,
helping me. He was helping me unpack, and he was helping me pack.
he's great. He is wonderful and such a supportive husband. I'm so thankful that you have the kind of husband who understands that there are seasons of busyness for the ministry. I know that you protect your marriage and you're not going to travel more than you should or more than would be maritally helpful. I'm afraid if I traveled quite that much, I might be in marriage counseling for at least a couple of weeks. We do a lot of traveling. And as John always says, we love our job. It's getting to work that's the problem. It's the commute that's killer. We're out on the road a lot,
Oh,
but you got to make hay while the sun is shining, right?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
why don't we
quality,
go back?
we really pour it in when we're home. Go ahead.
Yep. Yep. Why don't we go back, Jeannie, and can you give us just kind of the main idea of why you went to Guatemala, why you went to El Salvador, why you went to Paraguay? What were the main things that you were trying to accomplish on each of these trips, beginning with Guatemala?
Well, Guatemala, as I said, we had left that partial door open, and we got the opportunity through another invitation as well. Like I said, we work with the associations, and NADU had made contact with the leaders there in Guatemala. So together, um, getting a hold of Dr. Fernando Solares, we were able to expand to the different pastors that were through the association and with the local ones that he had. So we had just the perfect platform to bring together all of these pastors and really share with them the importance of what the four questions are, and also help them understand that our objective is to work side by side in opening up pregnancy help ministries. Sometimes that's an actual office, and sometimes it's just teaching them what to say and how to say in that moment of crisis,
That's exactly
and
right.
definitely to try to bring the gospel of life to each and every woman that we come in contact with.
That's right. So
So
Guatemala, from
that's what
Guatemala,
happened in Guatemala.
there's a
Just taking
brief
some.
if people are
Yes.
wondering, there's a brief sound delay between us, but we're working with it. So from if I am talking over you sometimes, it's because the sound hasn't gotten to me yet, but that's okay. From Guatemala, you moved on. You went to El Salvador, and why did you go to El Salvador?
Yes, we as well had already leaders there that had invited us to El Salvador. And one of my highlights was that we're starting to see where we have built up other churches in other countries. And some of these volunteers that have been there are now living in other countries with so much disbursement going on right now throughout Latin America. So we
Wow,
got
that's
to El Salvador, and there was a volunteer from Cuba who knew that I was coming. So I met her at that church. And sure enough, just her experience, Mark, for her to
yeah,
share what we've done in Cuba, helped her to speak to the pastor's wife and tell her that she would love to join and help her start what happened in Cuba, which has been remarkable. So, once again, there were 2 nights of teaching the four questions, of bringing testimony, and
yep,
showing them that it can be done, and that we are
great.
here to help them to start these pregnancy centers. And most of all, for each and every pastor to really understand the calling from the Word of God to protect those that belong to the Lord.
Yeah, so you went from El Salvador directly to Paraguay without coming back to the United States. So Paraguay was a little bit different. What was the
I
thrust
did.
there?
Yes, to Paraguay. Nadu had been invited to a women's retreat. And sure enough, whenever Nadu has an opportunity to share the four questions, which she just loves to do, she
Yeah.
and I got together and we decided that we would teach this one group of women that were coming together, which was like 60 or 70 women, um, teach them the basic structure of the four questions. And they were once again just at awe at what the word said, and how they can also be trained to know what to say in a moment of crisis, and to link arms together and to start working in how they can impact their communities and their churches
hmm
with the
And a
gospel
lot
of
of
life.
times these opportunities lead to subsequent opportunities to go back and teach people again later on in Paraguay. So after Paraguay, you came home. You probably emptied your suitcase, and in a couple of days, you filled it right back up, and you were off to Medellin, Colombia. Why were you in Medellin?
That was, I would say, of these all these tours, Medellin was really a pivotal, just an awakening of seeing our work, the fruit of our labor in Medellin. As I said, we started there at the seminary where John had taught for
Yep.
a week. And we had started to interact with different people that were interested, but they had a hard time kind of coming together. They kind of saw
Yep.
each of their own ministries working independently. But when we got there this past month, I actually walked in to see 11 different ministries that had developed
Mm.
in the last 7 years all together.
That is astounding. That really is astounding. That is the work taking root. And Colombia is one of those places where we are really seeing the Lord bring the fire. Jeannie, we only have like 2 minutes left, and it's gonna fly by. So from Medellin, your next trip was to Cuba, if I'm oh no, you went to Chile.
Yes. I went to
Yeah.
Chile. We went back, like you said, Mark. Sometimes you got to go back and prune the trees to see the fruit, and that's coming.
Chile
Exciting.
was
We went
that
to
was our
two
third trip to
different
Chile, and there are
cities.
wonderful things developing
Yes.
in Chile. From Chile, you were
Yes.
back to Cuba. You've been to Cuba at least 35 or 40 times now with Passion Life. Literally.
Something like that. You know, Cuba is our is where we see what God can do with those that have the least and have just flourished. There's 22 different ministries right now in the island of Cuba.
Cuba is like our Antioch in Latin America. It's where everything kind of is we come back there and we work with the leaders, then we go around. But you just got back from Cartagena, Colombia. After Cuba, you went to Cartagena, Colombia, and you've just been back for a few hours. And I can smell the smoke of battle on you still. I mean, you guys have been out there doing this now for the last couple of weeks with almost no rest. I know that it was a wonderful time. Jeannie, we've only got about 30 seconds left. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to challenge our people who are watching today to follow the work of Passion Life. And if you're interested in knowing where we are on the field and how you can pray for us, if you go to the passionlife.org website, there is an events page. That events page really is not there necessarily to record. It's there for people to pray and to see where we're going and see if they can send people to those places. So pray for the work of Passion Life. Pray for our Latin America team in particular. Go to the events page and know how you can pray in real time. Jeannie, it's been great being with you today.
Thank you so much, Mark. We're going to the Dominican Republic at the end of the month, and then I'm off for almost a month. So I'll be able to enjoy my home.